pushing and pulling, it won't open, it's no good, and I'm wide awake now. I can't get no sleep.
The Blades Ramble are proudly supported by our main channel sponsor, My Business Group, a group of brands designed to support owners, leaders and managers in business. We would not be where we are without the incredible support of John and the team. If you're looking to grow your business, contact mybusinessgroup.co.uk today for more information, or follow the link in the description below.
Blades fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
Good evening to one and all. Hope you're all doing well. On the screen, you will see my team for the weekend. And I don't think it's bad. This is your countdown to kickoff. This is as we look at the upcoming first game of the season. It's coming around ridiculously quickly. And there's been some nerves in the fan base, I think it's fair to say, about particularly losing an L this week. I haven't... Oh, I'm getting a no sound now. Is that still the case? I don't think it is. James from Matilda Shakes is messaging me saying, I've got no sound. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I'm good, aren't I? Everybody in chat saying I'm all right. We have sound, says Bri. Thank you, mate. Good now, says Sat. Thank you. Thank you. That shows me who's listening behind where they need to be. Anyway, enough of that. We started fine. I'll cut it out. Nobody will ever know. I'll just leave it in. Anyway, so people were a little bit nervous about Anel going, understandably so. Best centre half at the club. We need a replacement in, undoubtedly. But there are 4 weeks. We spoke about it at length yesterday on Three Mardy Blades. Really enjoyed the episode. They came back at me both Dave the Nose and Man Mountain. We had a not heated, but we had a bit of a back and forth about, I think we need a little bit more experience in this side. They are very much of the opinion that experience doesn't mean what everybody says it means, and if you're good enough, you're old enough. I understand that too, but I wouldn't want a team of 20, 21-year-olds personally. That's just a personal opinion. Really enjoyed that debate with them guys. And we need a centre-half in, that's undoubted. We've been linked with Ben Godfrey today, which I think would be a brilliant... Can you imagine him alongside Tyler Bindon? I think it could come together quite nicely. I'm pleased. I'm pleased with this team that we can field as well. If you look at it, and I wanted to have it on screen, because there is the option not to have it, but I think this gives me a little bit more hope in terms of what we could produce at the weekend. People are saying, look, everyone knows my thoughts on Jack Robinson. Understand that. But in this instance, I'm delighted to see Jack Robinson fit and raring to go. He will be fit for the weekend. That is the information I'm getting. Harrison Burrows will play at left back. Tyler Bindon alongside Jackie Longthroat. Femi Siriki at right back, undoubtedly. Sidi Peck and Gus Hamer I'm going for in the middle. You could put Samari there. I think that would be harsh on Sidi. Callum O'Hare in front of those two. Louis Barry on the left. Andre Brooks, I think, deserves his start on the right. It is a position I'd like us to strengthen a little bit more. And Tyrese Campbell gets the nod for me. You could bring Ryan One into this side. Maybe try him on the right-hand side for Andre Brooks because of how good a pre-season Ryan One has had. But Andre Brooks, for me, I think deserves, which has got an E in his name for some reason there. That's something I'll have to flag up with Stream Builder. But Andrea is not spelt like that. That's a bit of a throwback shout. So, Ben Godfrey, what are your thoughts on him? I've just seen the news pop up just before I come on stream. Ollie McBurney is now a Tiger. He's signed for Hull City. The reality is, Hull City can only sign free transfers and loan players. They're in a bit of a mess financially. Not as much of a mess as our neighbours. Understandably so. But they can only sign loan players and free transfers. They have offered McBurney significantly more than we did, out of choice. I don't want that to be misconstrued as they can outbid us. We offered him relative to his position in the squad. This is my understanding. We offered him a squad player's contract, and he's chosen to go there and likely be there starting number 9 because he's got the number 9 shirt. I think he'll be there starting striker. So it's a good move for Ollie McBurney. You can see it written, can't you, that John Lundstrom threads the ball through to Ollie McBurney against Sheffield United at Bramall Lane. But we'll cross that bridge as and when we have to come to it. I want to know how you guys are feeling tonight. We can't always go through every comment on every show now because we're, like with 3MB, we want the boys to have their say as well. I've got Talking Sense with Andy the Blade coming up tomorrow. We won't be able to get to every single comment there. We'll get through what we can. But when it's just me flying solo and able to get the stream working right, which hasn't gone to plan fully tonight, but so far so good, then I can get through as many as I possibly can. And I want to hear how you're feeling. I've also, for those of you that have been with us a while, might remember the Ramble rundown, which was basically where I put some questions to the opposition before the game, and they gave us a bit of a rundown as to what we could expect from their side. It was like 8 to 10 questions. Well, now we've revamped that a little bit, and I've put that out as its own individual video. So that is now, that were released at 6 o'clock earlier tonight. That's now called Who Are Ya? And the first one is with Jack Buchanan from the Jack Buchanan channel, but he's a Bristol City fan, and he talks us through, he answers 10 of our questions in terms of what we can expect to see. It's only a 3.5 minute. If you want to go and check that out to see what we're coming up against Bristol City at the weekend and how they're feeling. I always think those videos are really insightful into, like, we know as a fan base, Unitedites are a little bit like, not really sure. We're not ready. We're definitely not ready for the window to close, but we feel like we're a little bit short now going into the opening game. Well, do other teams feel like that? I'm sure they are. You've got to look at sides and think, whatever side most teams put out this weekend will differ massively from the team that they will play once the window closes. No one has got their full squad set and done. Nobody's at full complement. I've had Paul Rose from Wellstone Landscapes here today, who's a sponsor of Countdown to Kickoff. And he was saying the same to me, like, everybody's talking about Wrexham and how much business they're doing. And it's okay business, and that Wrexham are going to, do really well this season. They're buying championship level players. Kiefer Moore was third choice striker for us, and he's a big deal for them, which is relative, and that's fair. Josh Windass, Sheffield Wednesday, has gone there. Okay, good player for the level. Okay, player for the level. Would he get in our side? No. Why are people having them down as a playoff side now that they've made a few signings like this? It's not for me. I think all sides in their own way will have their own insecurities going into this weekend. And we're not alone with that, obviously. But I think there has to be a bit of a reality check somewhere in terms of where we are and how ready we are. So we are settled into it now. Apologies for the technical issues at the start. But let's get into some of your comments. Lee says, I've seen more professionalism from United's transfer planning. Look, mate, if you want to come and be a producer, I'm taking applications. I can't pay you, but I'm more than happy to let someone else have a go. It's not great. And Bry's not having it. Hey, Jim Bro says, Carl, I up, mate. And I know Lee's just teasing. Mate, absolutely right. And fair cop, because I won't go into intricacies of it, but something's not gone right with that tonight, because normally I can just set it all up. I were in front. I just got here. I was sound. I were good to go. Anyway, these things happen. It will be a realistic 2 centre-backs you would sign. Right, Chris. So I can take this question a couple of ways. I can take it in terms of who I think we might sign, in terms of realistic captures, or I can tell you who I want to sign. And they are 2 very different things. I've just got a message in Platinum chat that Anel is starting for Feyenoord in the Champions League tonight. And people wonder why he wanted to go. So, yeah, fair play to Anel. That's Toddy that's letting me know that. Thank you, pal. 2 realistic. I think, well, if we go with recency, we'll look at Ben Godfrey. I think would be ideal for what we need. I think in Sayers football, it's going to be very high press, play high up the field, and try and play in their half as much as possible, which is very exciting, but it also leaves you very vulnerable. I'd like someone with some pace at the back. I think we'll need that. I think we're going to miss that with Anel. And I think somebody like Ben Godfrey, who is a pure athlete, would would really complement that. I would also like quite an experienced head. We're not going to sign Rob Holding now. He's gone. I understand that, and it's an easy one to go back to. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. But I would like someone that can offer a little bit of guidance and leadership at the back, a little bit of experience, like I talked about last night. So somebody like a Rob Holding, but we'll say, to go to the extreme of it, somebody like a Craig Dawson. I don't know whether they're still available, that sort of thing. But because if Ben Godfrey comes in, you're starting to Abinden and Godfrey, aren't they? You need somebody there reliable, somebody that's a cool head in the changing rooms, has been there, done it. In my opinion, you don't need it, but it's always favourable to have. So that's those are my thoughts on it. Chris, thank you for your question, pal. Alessandro says, plenty of time to do business if we bring 3 or 4 signings in, covering centre-back times 2. Right, covering centre-back times 2. No, we need a centre-back and a covering centre-back for me. Right back, right wing, anything else is a bonus. So what I can tell you is we have got a bid on the table for Zetterstrom. And we have got a bid on the table for is it Korean right back? I don't want to get it wrong because I'll feel bad. But the Sung Woo, I believe, from what I'm told, there is solid interest from United and money is on the table to start discussing a deal for those two. Charlie says, good evening, Jimmy. At last, we have the start of the season in sight. My thoughts are 2-0 Blades. Yes, I would love you to be right there, Charlie. I'm just looking at our defence, whether we can keep a clean sheet. Yeah, we'll go. 2-0's not a bad shout. 2-0's not a bad shout at all. Is it a bit negative, one up top, or is that all we have? I think this is just the style that we play, James. And to be honest, you look at the pre-season, it's certainly not been negative, has it? It's been very attacking. And Man Mountain talked about it last night. I don't think people are talking about how good our pre-season has been. We've steamrolled, yes, teams that we were expected to steamroller. We were well in the game against Nice. I've watched the highlights because I was having a bit of a disaster when that was on, as you all know. And then, by all accounts and the reports, Fulham put out a really strong side, and we've beaten them 3-2 in what was 3 or 4 30-minute games, or 30-minute intervals. So pre-season's gone really well, or about as well as it could have done. And I think it's not always about the system you play, it's about how you implement that system. One up top, when you think about one up top, it can be construed as quite negative. If you consider this a 4-5-1, where it's more of a flat across the halfway line, flat 5 across the halfway line, but that's not the way we play, is it? The 3 behind Campbell play between the lines a little bit. So I'm perfectly happy with the one up top. I think it suits. I've talked a little bit about our squad balance going into this game. I think it's looking okay. We've still got work to do. But for example, we play one up top. We've got probably 3 striker options, and Ryan One is one of those. So it's Tom Cannon is the really strong competition to Tyrese Campbell. And then you've got Ryan One there just as a bit of a backup. So I think that balance, for example, is pretty good. If we don't get a striker in, which I think we will, but if we don't get a striker in, I'm not overly upset about it. So these are the sort of things the way I would sort of look at it, James, to be honest, pal. Who's your subs for Saturday, says Peak. Interesting. Something I've not thought about. Obviously, you think about the people that are close to. Let's go through the positions in terms of who's close to making it into the side anyway. I think we're struggling for right back up. We're struggling for centre-half back up. I think Dovis Asnauskas will make the bench because he's played both right back and centre-half in pre-season. I think Sam McCallum is nailed on, obviously. Samare will be on the bench. Will Tom Davis be fit enough to make the bench? I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure at this stage of the season, because we've seen it previously, haven't we, in this stage, when it comes to the very beginning of the season before the window's closed, that peripheral players are more involved. So you might see a Louis Marsh and Jeff Caceres and Ukaki will definitely be on the bench. Tom Cannon will, if this is the team that we go with, Tom Cannon will be on the bench. Ryan One has earned a place on the bench because he can come on and be an impact player. He's played very well in pre-season, as we all know. So yeah, I think those will be involved at peak in some form or fashion. Joe says we need a centre back, and I like Godfrey, but we need one on a permanent. Currently, our contracted centre backs for next season are Reece Norrington Davis and Sasnaukas. Reece Norrington Davis is not a centre back, is he either? So I share your concerns, Joe, and I will go one further and say we've only got Sasnaukas, who's a youth player. We haven't got any contracted centre backs for next season. So, but that was the case before Inel left anyway. We do need some permanent deals. You're right, but Godfrey strengthens us in the here and now, and I think if we get him for the season, it's still a really good signing. I would prefer a permanent for somebody, which I'm sure we'll get at some stage. Sai says, would you say your team is weak? I would say your team is weak defensively, but plenty of time left. Hull's centre-back Coventry are rumoured to be upping their offer to 8 million. In your opinion, is that too rich? For Charlie Hughes, it's probably the maximum I would go to. It's probably the maximum. What you're doing there is paying for potential. And I think I wouldn't go any further than that, and I don't even think we will actually go to that. So I think we'll step away. Hull clearly want a bidding war. Coventry have spent well this summer. I think there will be a real challenge at the top end of the division. And yeah, I think we might. From what I'm being told, we will continue to be interested in Charlie Hughes. We will be keeping tabs on him. We are very interested, but I'm unaware of what level we're willing to go to. Louis says, even Jimmy, that's the exact 11 and shape I will go for Saturday. I need to recruit at centre-back. That's our best two as it stands. Up the Ramble, like and subscribe. Thank you, pal. Appreciate that. Not sure McBurney is a great miss, to be honest, says Bry. McBurney's a tricky one because, again, we've talked about this a few times, but he fits the mould for what we need at the moment, in my opinion. We need a third option at striker. Someone who's not going to be the first sub on. Somebody who's going to be capable when called upon, but not the main boy. And it's tough to find a reputable, reliable striker of that calibre at this level. And McBurney would have fit that for us. And I think if Hull weren't interested, we would have signed him. But Hull have come in and given him a more attractive offer, not only financially, but in terms of games as well. You know, he's going to get more game time there. He's going to be likely their leading striker. I understand his decision. Outfought in a transfer battle by Dull, says Lee. No, you've got to apply the context there, Lee. We have chosen not to match their offer. It's not that we can't. You wouldn't want to be paying... I don't know what they're paying McBurney, to be honest, but say it's 25 grand a week. You wouldn't want to be paying your third choice striker 25 grand a week if he's not going to be a fully fledged contributor to most games. Bean says, I like how we've played pre-season and I like the manager, but the transfer business makes me feel so underwhelmed. The Godfrey link to me screams Holgate version 2 and it's another loan. Continued. You can't build a squad off loans. We're getting no assets until we spend some money and no loans aren't free. These owners aren't convincing me. I think that's a well-reasoned, well-balanced argument. I think we need to be making some permanent moves. And I think we will. I can only hope at this moment, though, because we don't know. None of us know, do we? None of us know whether that is going to be the case. So, fingers crossed, we can make some permanent moves. Because Bean's right. We are not building assets at the moment. We are selling assets. We're holding on to the main assets, which we have to be aware of. And we're also loaning in talented players. So, all is not lost, but it's quite precarious in terms of a medium to long-term view at the moment. Andrew says, good team, but need two centre-backs. Ideally, one experienced to start and an experienced right-back and a quick right-winger. Possibly a striker if we don't use One. That is exactly how I feel, Andrew. Exactly how I feel. Alessandro says, I like the links to that Korean right-back, the Swedish Malmo centre-back. Very football manager, very different. I think that's what you mean by FM. Don't mind the links to Hughes, Mepham or Godfrey. I haven't seen the Mepham links resurfaced. People have kept mentioning it to me, though. So if anybody can link it to me, let me know. But Charlie, I like the Charlie Hughes links. I won't be paying more than 8 million quid for him. And Ben Godfrey, I really like. I haven't seen him in a year. So, again, I'm only going off what I've previously seen of him. But still a good athlete. And for this level, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. I think he's more or less a like-for-like Nell replacement, if we think about it in that sense. I think he's probably slightly more athletic and less of a threat going forward. But I really like him as a player. 4-2 win for the Blades on Saturday, lads, says Joe. Frightening attack, but a bit dodgy. Definitely, in my opinion. Defensively, I think you mean. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Yeah, I think we've got more than enough in this side to beat Bristol City. I'm not saying we definitely will. I don't want to be too arrogant and say that, because we've got clear frailties that we're all aware of. But starting with, in terms of the attacking threat, starting with Gus Hamer, and then you look forward at Callum O'Hare, Louis Barry, Tyrese Campbell. I know there's Brooks and Peck in there as well, but those four can create something out of nothing, can't they? Particularly Gus, obviously, but Cal O'Hare, Louis Barry. Louis Barry, what an incredible addition that could be. Could be, because he's not done it at this level yet, but it's all right. Going forward, I'm comfortable, and I really like Tyler Bindon at the back. A lot of us like Harrison Burrows, and Cooper, I think, is the best in the league. We cannot underestimate the foundation that we've already got. I know we've lost a couple of players, but I think we're starting from a good place. All fans are looking for that marquee signing. It says Bright should still happen. It could. In terms of Saturday, says Bean, the team looks decent, but you're not concerned. Most of them are midgets. Every set piece is going to be a decent chance for us to concede. Who in that 11 is heading the ball? Tyler Bindon's heading the ball, and after that, you're right, mate. You're right. It's a small side, isn't it? Something that I hadn't overly considered, to be honest. And it's a very good point. We've got 10 quid and a bag of balloons, says Lee. Chris says, are we better or worse team than this time last year? I think we're in a better place, so hopefully we can build and get over the line without the trip to Wembley. That'd be a decent comparison side by side, wouldn't it? I think Harry Suter was here this time last year. We didn't know quite at that stage how good he would go on to be for us for that half season. Was Cooper in? I don't think Cooper was in at this stage, because I think Adam Davies started the first game. Callum O'Hare was here. Gus Hamer was here. I'm not sure. I think Burrows were there. Interesting. Thank you, Lee. I've just got that message, mate. Nige says, good evening, Jimmy. Hope all is well, pal. What do you reckon the next signing will be, position-wise, and realistically who? I know it's difficult with going for a wider range of players. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, up behind the Ramble. Like and subscribe. Thank you, mate. I think it will be a centre-back. The number one loan priority last week was Tim Irugbunum, who was going to be our Vinny Souza replacement. Even though Samaris was coming anyway, that was all almost done at that stage, just the final stages of paperwork. But Tim from Everton, Irugbunum, the centre midfielder, was our primary loan target. Now that Anella's gone, that may cool a little bit. I still think it gets done because it's all agreed, subject to Everton getting their targets in. So it would have been him if we'd have had a clear run at it. But with Anel going and the obvious need, even if you consider Jack Robinson very capable at this level, which some will do, and that's fine, we've got nothing underneath these two at centre-back, and we've got nothing underneath Femi either, really, if we're right, have we? So I think it's a right-back, and I think it's a centre-half, and I think it's probably Nige going to be a centre-half that comes in. Ben Godfrey, I love the link to Ben Godfrey. I really like it as a link. I'd want Charlie Hughes. I know that we're in for the Korean right-back, as I've said earlier, and we're also looking at Zetterstrom and talking to both Zetterstrom's club and Seung-woo's club as well. So things are moving in the background. Not quick enough for some Blades, understandably so, because we're off and running on Saturday, aren't we? But at least things are moving. At least things are moving. One thing I will say is, and this is a question to all Blades really, would you rather move now and fill the gaps that we need with 4 weeks to go and be sort of set over the next 10 days and be done? Or would you rather wait and get better players? And because it's so vague, I can give you an example. Morgan Gibbs-White, did he come on the last day of the loan window when Slav were here? We waited and waited and waited for the right person, and Morgan Gibbs-White came along. They were umming and ahhing as to whether they were going to release him on loan. We got the deal done. Were it Slav or Eki? I can't remember, to be honest. But we waited and we got him. And now if that is the sort of player, obviously he's gone on to much bigger and not bigger, but he's gone into playing the Premier League. He's become a better player, hasn't he? Well, not say he's become a better. But that's my example to give you, that these sort of players that can be rare to get hold of can become available very late on in the window. So would you gamble for better players becoming available later on? And it's hard to say yes, you would when you don't know who's going to become available, but there may be evidence of it when we look back after September the 1st. I hate balloon, says Bry. Good evening, Bry. And there's some pleasantries being exchanged there. That's nice to see. Bean says, I know last night you three were saying give the club time, etc. to get replacements in. The window has been open a month, not days. I guarantee if we concede a few on Saturday, it won't be give time. This is what I'm talking about, though, Bean, isn't it? It's, do you go out and get all the players on day one, which no club ever does, and there's a reason for it, but no club ever does. We're waiting for dominoes to fall above us. We're waiting for Everton being the prime example at the moment with the centre midfielder. As soon as they get their ducks in a row, he will become available and he will sign for Sheffield United. But we are powerless. We are waiting for the club that own the player to do their bit. So that's where it is, really. Good luck from a Leeds fan, Jim. Thank you, Ducky. Very much appreciated, pal. Sai says, I'm very happy with the hunger, quality and fitness of the incomings. Your thoughts? For me, we just need a few more that will be our assets to improve and grow with us. Yeah, I'm happy with the players that we've signed for the first team, undoubtedly. I don't know enough about what have been dubbed the AI boys. Don't know enough about them. Looked okay in pre-season. Ukaki's looked all right in pre-season. Jeff's had flashes as well. Louis Barry, I'm really pleased with. Tyler Binden, I'm really pleased with. Don't know a lot about Samare, but comes with a big reputation. So yeah, I'm happy with what we've done. We do need permanent signings that are going to be able to grow with Sheffield United. So, Lee says, I'm sending Jim out on loan. Well, there's no need for that, is there? Ben says, evening, Jim. Wouldn't mind Godfrey. I think he's one of the middle players between the Prem and top-end champ. I agree. Still very positive for the season. No need to worry, yet still got time. Up the Blades, up all the Rambles. Like and subscribe. Thank you, mate. Dave says, evening, Jimmy. You are back. We are back for our first victory. Oh, let's be positive. Like and subscribe to the most professional Blades content around. We'll get there, mate. We'll get there one day. Cooler King says, is that starting 11 stronger or weaker than the starting 11 for the first match of last season? I genuinely can't remember who played. Does anybody know? Put it in the comments if you. I would have had a look then, but obviously it might take me away from screen for some time. But if anybody can have a look and wants to put in the comments who the team was that we played, the first 11 that we played last season, first game of last season, then we can compare them properly, can't we? Chris says, come on, Jim, or I'm going to watch a video. Cats doing funny stuff. Yes, Lee, they're starving in Bulgaria. Joking aside, Jim, we need 6 more first-team players. No development players, not loans. Not someone to make 50 quid on turnover. I agree with you, Lee. I agree. I don't disagree. I think 6 is OTT. But I think we need at least 2. 3, probably. 3 probably being a centre-half, starting centre-half. Somebody who can push Femi and somebody who can push Brooks. I think we definitely need those. And I think we'll get a couple more as well. Might just be me, but I don't want 2 loans starting at centre-back. What if they both get recalled in January? It also means next summer we're going to have to buy 4 centre-backs. And without our current rate, it'd take 4 years. Does it mean we'd have to buy 4 or buy 2 and get another couple in? I know what you're saying, though. I know what you're saying. I'm playing devils a little bit. Charger says, if we were to get Godfrey, would you also take Zetterstrom, as Godfrey has lots of experience? He has got experience. He's not that old, is he? But he is an experienced player. Yeah, I'd take Zetterstrom. I think there's a chance we get Zetterstrom as well, to be honest. Could Gilchrist and Mepham do a job for us? 2 great perms. We won't go in for Gilchrist, I don't think. I'll be surprised if we do. Is he being linked to... He's been linked somewhere. Probably Wrexham or Birmingham. Mepham, I haven't seen the links to. And Lee's just sent me a message now saying he can't find links either. I like that kid from Malmo, says Bry. Don't be fooled by a YouTube package, Bry. You know that, and I don't have to tell you that. But also, he's seen to be quite raw, I think, but with a very high ceiling. So that is why we like him. Imagine Campbell gets injured and Cannon isn't a player you like up front on his own role. That leaves us with an 18-year-old up front. Thoughts? Why are we catastrophizing everything? You could say, what if Lee? What if Cooper gets injured? That's something I actually worry about. If Cooper gets injured, we've got Adam Davies, who I don't think is anywhere near the same calibre, and that's not a slight on Davies, that's because Cooper's so good. You could have these fears about everything in terms of positions, and what if this guy gets injured? So you're hoping on not hoping, but you're suggesting two caveats there, that our two best strikers don't perform or get injured. Well, why would you do that? What if Gus and Peck get injured? What if Gus and O'Hare get injured? I don't think you can do it, pal. That's just, yes, we wouldn't be in as fine a shape. And I just want to say thank you to Charlie, who has just found me the lineup from last season, and they're starting the Sheffield United starting lineup from last season. So let's go through this then. We've got this team on screen. This is my suggested or hope, likely I think probably, starting lineup, even though we don't know what Sayers is going to do. Starting lineup for Sheffield United versus Bristol City at the weekend. When we went to Preston at the beginning of last season, first game, it was, let's have a look at the formation. Yes, it was the same. It was the same 4-2-3-1. Adam Davis in goal. Alfie Gilchrist at right back. Anel and Robbo centre half, and Burrows. So only thing there is, the only difference is obviously Cooper's a significant upgrade on Davis. Sariki came on for Gilchrist actually, and Sariki I would say came on last season in terms of his ability as well. I think it's negligible between Gilchrist and Sariki. I think Anel is probably more accomplished than Bindon, it's fair to say. So I would say at the moment, because of the Cooper thing, this team, in terms of keeper and defence, leans more towards we're stronger. In the middle, we had Arblaster and Vinny Souza. I think any pairing with Gus Amerin is better. I'd say Arblaster's slightly better than Siddy, in my personal opinion. I'd say Gus is head and shoulders better than Vinny. O'Hare was in the 10. Brooks was on the right. And Hamer will have been on the left. So negligible, because obviously I like Hamer more than I like Louis Barry, obviously. But we've got somebody who's a lot more positionally aware in terms of Louis Barry. Gus could play right back and still be a player at match. And it would keep him more up top instead of Tyrese Campbell. And I prefer Tyrese Campbell personally. I think, looking at that, thank you to Charlie again for doing that. I think we're stronger going into this game than we were this time last season, which is better for me. Joe says, anyone panicking also needs to remember our situation as year 2 parachutes. We're always going to have to sell. Look at Leeds last season. Sold like, well, Joe says 80 million. I think it was close to 100 million. Chris says, Derby brought in 10 players this window on a lower budget than us. What is Betis doing apart from putting us on the back foot, playing catch up the Ramble? We could go and get 10 players. We could go and get 10. Do we need 10 players? Are we going to find 10 players that are better than this? On a lower budget, on a Derby budget? Would any of those Derby signings get into our side, Chris? And I'm not defending the club. I'm just trying to be balanced. I'm trying to provide a balanced view. So I'm not convinced. We could have gone and got Ollie McBurney, for example. Could have paid him equivalent to what Tyrese Campbell's on, and he'd have come and he'd have sat on bench. But is that a smart way of spending our budget? I'm not sure it is. Our squad's still strong, will be right, says Joe. Quality, not quantity, lads, says Bry. I tend to agree with that. Matt says, Hull City video of signing McBurney. I feel sick and sad at the same time. It's a quality video, though. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It looks really good. Charger says, if the loan deal was done for Godfrey, do you reckon there'll be an option or obligation in it upon promotion? I've no idea, Charger, to be honest, but I would love that. I would love that. Particularly, you'd always love an option rather than an obligation. But even if it's an obligation, because rightly mentioned earlier, we will need to recruit centre halves next season, whatever happens. Matt says, we'll be over the moon if we get him from Sweden and Ben Godfrey on loan. Get that Wu for cover at right back, a good loan right wing, and then sign a young forward 3 to 4 for third or fourth choice, and we'll be done then. So it's not too far away if you look at it that way, Matt. I mean, there's still a lot to do in what you've said, but it's not as bad. Any news on that German forward we're looking at? It was an Austrian forward in the Austrian league, and that was where the confusion came in, and I can explain it as and when the rumour goes away. Still on the list from what I understand. And I will I'll clarify a bit more about that when I'm able to. It's a fine line to walk, Wayne. You know, when you get people tell you information and you don't know which elements of it you're allowed to share. And so as soon as I know, mate, I can share that with you. It's desperation from Hull. They need players and limited with the soft transfer embargo. So a good signing for them, to be honest, and regular football from McBurney instead of being third choice. I agree, Nigel. That's all it is, isn't it? Jake says, is there any attacking links for a winger or a striker, and what's happened to Christian Chukwu? Chris is injured. We are linked to a striker. Let me just have a little look and see what the message said, because I think it may have also included what I can share and what I can't. Yeah, so to be honest, the immediate focus has moved to replacing Anel, which obviously there was a list for anyway. McBurney was offered wages in line with being a squad player rather than main striker, and Hull offered more, which we're not in for Richard Kone. Or we certainly don't believe that. I don't believe that we are. That was one that people were getting excited about when we were talking earlier about. There was a free transfer we were interested in. There was, which was McBurney. There's a permanent option and there's a loan option, and I think the permanent option will be League One, because League One was mentioned to me, and that's where people start putting two and two together and coming up with Richard Kone and DKD and things like that. So I haven't got a name for that. Seasons, I've just seen Nigel's thing. Season starting matchups aren't by coincidence. 3-0 last season, twice in a row. I'll be happy with a good performance and a 1-0 win, to be honest. Me too, mate. Me too. Bryce says, are Hull going to get a points deduction as well as Leicester and Wednesday? Don't know. Don't know enough about Hull's situation. I know that, speaking of Leicester and Wednesday, who play each other on Sunday, by the way, we'll be watching that on Ramble FC on Sunday if you want to come and join us. We're also live for Birmingham v Ipswich on Friday night, which I'm really looking forward to. The season properly gets underway on Friday night. So, so good. So good. Mike says, serious question. We were led to believe this board has some funds. Apart from the Cannon deal, their muscles aren't being flexed much. What do we reckon? That's where people are doubting them, isn't it, Mike? And to be honest, if the Cannon deal hadn't happened, a lot of us would be really worried, wouldn't we? Because we would be saying, there's no money. There's just no money to spend, clearly, because it's not. But they did drop 10 million on Tom Cannon, which is no mean feat. So there's clearly, and what I'm being told, Mike, and this is all I'm being told, rather than I can't prove it, and I have to believe it, and it's come from a source that's been right on numerous occasions. There is money to spend, but only on the right players, and we will determine that through different things. And one of the big factors we're looking at is the athleticism of players, because it's something that my Mountain's talked about for a long time, and I always try and give him his credit when he's proven to be right, and it's something that he's been banging the drum about. We need athletes, and particularly if they're going to be players that come with us to the Premier League, they need to be able to compete for 90 minutes. This system that we are going to be looking to implement under Ruben Sayers is hell for leather in terms of you need to be super fit to play it. And I think fitness, we really struggled with last season. We really struggled with going to the end of games. There was that stat, that frightening stat that came out that said if the games had started at 75 minutes onwards last season, so the last 15 minutes of the game were the only metrics that you had, Sheffield United, Leeds would have been first, Burnley would have been second, like they were, and Sheffield United, who were up there with them all season, Sheffield United would have been something like 16th, 17th. Hull were 4th or 5th. Ruben Sayers, Hull were 4th or 5th. So these are the factors that we're looking at. And I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Ben Godfrey seems to fit that mould for me. So wouldn't surprise me if we were trying to get an option. I don't know whether it's too far of a reach, but it probably won't be if it's an obligation on promotion, because then we'll be a Premier League side, obviously. So anyway, let's get to the next one. Thank you for that, Mike. Appreciate it. Bryce says, like, subscribe and share to the Best Blades channel on the Tinterweb peeps. Helps us grow the channel. Helps you get brilliant content. All the price off of the price of $0. Go on, do it. Thank you, Bry. Very much appreciate that, pal. David Vinter says, pity we missed out on Ant-Man. Looks class for Rangers last night. Up the Blades, up all the Rambles. Yeah, to be fair, it does look like Rangers can offer stuff that we can't they? They play in a poor league, a really poor league, but they can offer European football, they can offer more money, and they can offer bigger crowds and bigger occasions. So you can understand why players choose that over Championship clubs. And Russell Martin has cut his teeth in the Championship, so he knows the market, he knows, you know, and I know Ant-Man didn't come from the Championship, right? In terms of when they're looking at players that we're in the market for, they'll have a slight edge. So yeah, you're right, Dave. Nigel says, wait and get better players till the squad's good enough to beat City. Wait and get the better players in. The squad's good enough to beat Bristol City on Saturday without a doubt, and others. We look dangerous in attack, so get the right players for me. I would like a mix of both, to be honest. Another good example of this is when we needed players last summer, the first two signings we made were Jamie Shackleton and Sam McCallum. Would you rather us buy Jamie Shackleton's and Sam McCallum's now to fill out the squad in positions that we need, or would you rather we wait? And that feels really harsh to say, but neither player is a danger of starting at the moment in this side. It don't mean they're not good Championship players. We are looking at players who can not only play at the top of the Championship, but can potentially bridge the gap. So if that is the level that's available currently, unless you're paying big money, then why aren't we waiting for the right players? So this is where I think we need a balance, because we do need bodies in, but they need to be the right bodies, don't they? Blackadder says, evening Jimmy, buzzing for Saturday. I'm hoping the new owners are sandbagging regarding not spending the money so we can get some cracking deals towards the end of the window. Up the blades, up the ramble. Thank you, mate. Key says, also in football and being in the position we are in, it wouldn't surprise me if we sold Gus and Coops. But one thing's for sure, you don't pay 110 million just to make a loss, because that's as it is. We won't be selling Cooper and Gus. I'm confident of it. We've been saying it for a long time now that I'm confident we keep those players, and I'm still confident we keep those players. Can you say happy birthday to Dave the Barrow? Dave the Barrow, happy birthday, pal. Hope you have a great one. And thank you for watching and supporting us. And fingers crossed the Blades get the 3 points at the weekend for you. Cooler King says, starting lineup for the first match of last season. Thank you, mate. Yes, we've got that now. But yeah, I think we're slightly stronger than this at the moment. Slightly. It's negligible. But it's not, you know. And Bristol City, Preston, I know they had contrasting seasons last year, but historically in the Championship, a similar level of opposition, I would say. And this one's at home, last one was away. It's a favourable fixture for this time of the season when things aren't fully in place. Callum says, Hull will cook this season with McBurney and Lundstrom. One of them in it. Will it come back to haunt us? These things usually do. Lee says, goals get you promotion. If we play one up front, we're going to get 10 to 15 goals from 2 to 3 midfielders. Why would that happen when it didn't before? Cannon won't get his goals sat on the bench. Do you know how Ipswich play? A genuine question. That's not a set-up or a stitch-up. I believe Ipswich play the same system as us. I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure most sides now play one up top. And it's how you choose to view it. Some would call this a 4-5-1. Some would call it a 4-2-3-1. And others would call it a 4-3-3, where O'Hare drops back in and Brooks and Barry become the two wide forwards. And the truth is, it can be all of them, because it can be transitional and it can move dependent on the circumstances. What we are after as a club, and we know this because we've talked about it on the channel, Ruben says is after two forwards that can play across the front three. They don't have to be able to play in all three positions, but ideally, a little bit like he's done with Ryan One and experimented with Tom Cannon, we know that Ty Campbell can play slightly off to the left as well. Ideally, we would like forwards that are adaptable like that, so we can be fluid in what we're doing. So, that's where we are. That's where we are. I can just hear my missus outside, and she's not normally knocking about around here. So, she's probably just showing family the garden works from Wellstone Landscape, sponsor of this show. Thank you, Paul. David Smith says, hi Jimmy, glad you're back and have the same problem as you. I sell on eBay, you become reliant on them and then they suspend you and I'm expanding onto other platforms. Yeah, it's been an absolute nightmare scenario, David. Absolute nightmare. But we're back now, and which means stuff like when your stream don't go exactly according to plan, rather than stress about it and worry and all this sort of stuff that I used to do. I don't even know what went wrong tonight because the button that I pressed, it shouldn't have gone live straight away. So it's something that I will figure out. But I'm here, Anna. I'm here, and we're able to do a show, and we're able to check off the cobwebs and get into it. And you're grateful for being here, and you're grateful for people wanting to interact with you and stuff like that. And with your business, I hope it's the same. That, you know, they might not be able to still find you on eBay, but if you're doing your best, then I'm sure people will find you in terms of what you're selling and what you're doing. Cooler, we are borrowing. Are we borrowing an L back, mate? No, that's from last season, Bri. That were from last season's team. Can't stage you, mate. Just came to leave a like. So says serves you right for Muscat. That's very much appreciated, pal. You're doing me a bigger favour than you realise there. Liked as well, like always, says Key. Thank you, mate. To those that aren't subscribed, and I know that everybody commenting is subscribed because you can't comment if you don't. If you're not already, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. You can see now we're over 8,800, and to get anywhere close to 10k would be absolutely incredible. It sort of opens up a few more doors for the channel and things, so that'd be brilliant. Thank you to Mark Meldrew, who's also given us the team for last season. Manager coach has worked at Northampton Town, Chris Wilder. Manager coach has worked at Northampton Town, Chris Wilder. Sorry, Luke, I don't get the reference. Gilchrist's been linked to Derby. Thank you, mate. Yes, he has. Thank you, James. One of our Platinum Ramblers. Quality and Hunger, says Si. Yep, Bindon and Barry both had good seasons in the league below. A bit like Burrows. Give them a chance at this level. What I heard, issue I heard from fans was the lack of pace. Ukaki seems to... I'm sure you mean seems to have. Ukaki looks rapid. Quite raw. But certainly gives us an option off the bench. You're saying injuries and form are a part of football. Yes, they are, mate. Yes, they are. But that's why you have squads into it. And I know what you're saying is the squad isn't fully kitted out, but we've still got 4 weeks to go, haven't we? We've still got 4 weeks to go. And I don't think we need a striker. But your example of Campbell getting injured and Cannon not being up to it, even though we all hope he is, leaves us with One up front. Yeah, it does. But the club have actively said they're after another striker. So I'd be happy with those three because I think those three are good enough to rotate between them. And you can always have a makeshift Louis Marsh go up there if you're really struggling and things like that. And, you know, I don't think we're going to struggle for firepower this season. You look at the first few games in pre-season, scoring for fun. I get everybody's different, aren't they? And some people worry like this, like Lee's doing, and get frustrated with it and just want to be better because we love our club and we want to be doing more, and it's frustrating that we're not. And others try and always be positive and sort of think of the bright side. And it's probably somewhere in the middle, truth be told. It's probably... I get a little bit like this. I get a little bit frustrated sometimes. But I also, with the amount of people like Lee that come on here, it makes me then want to counter it and consider the other side of it. So stuff like this helps me, to be honest, in terms of levelling me out. Let's have a look. There's some talks about eye tests going on there. Josh says... thinks United will be a great loan for him. He can be involved in the Community Shield squad at the weekend, though. Josh, what's your first point there, pal? That is your first one. Here we go. You've got your first point below your first one. Let's go for this. I think Big Tim coming in on loan, and the last loan should be the right wing. I think Doak is perfect for a Sayers system. You're talking my language. You are talking my language with Ben Doak. And spoke with a Liverpool friend today that said he'd had a great pre-season and thinks United would be a great loan for him. I think he'll be involved in the Community Shield squad at the weekend, though. I would love Ben Doak, and I'm not the only Unitedite that said it. It's not like a revelation that, the Ramble's now talking about Ben Doak. I've not heard him linked to the club at all, but I've heard a lot of Blades talking about, he's talked a lot about in our Platinum chat and things like that. Had a really good start to his loan spell at Middlesbrough last season before unfortunately getting injured. He would complement us really well on this right-hand side. Andre Brooks would probably miss out because of him, because I think he's a level above Andre Brooks, unfortunately for Brooksy. But it's a little bit like the One scenario on the left-hand side, isn't it? Louis Barry is seen to be a better option than Ryan One in terms of being ready. So, and that's what you want. You want competition for places at that level, don't you? Jimmy, can we get the In-Betweeners memes back? I can't remember the In-Betweeners memes that we used, but funny. Diane says you can't run a team with loan players and get a new team of loan players at the start of a new season just to please the money boys. That's fair, Diane. That's fair. and we can't build a foundation of a team on loans. But last season, how many loans did we have? We had about 7 loans, didn't we, last season? And the loan market is used to complement your first team. The loans that you bring in should all be first team players. I think 2 of our 3 are first teamers. Samari is probably the 3rd that is on the periphery. But what else would you use the loan market for? Other than using your 5 spots for players that are going to push for the first team. Yes, we'd all prefer to have permanent first team players. That's the ideal. But the loan market is to be used for players that are slightly out of our reach. That is what I would say. And Louis Barry and Tyler Bindon, if they're not for sale at the moment, I know there were rumours about Barry. If they're not for sale at the moment, the closest thing we can do is get them in on loan and have them involved in our first team. Ben says, I think we'll see less injuries this season as the board and sayers will be looking for players who will be versatile and available. Also quality, not quantity. Yeah, as part of the athleticism criteria for the players that we're looking at players who are quite robust. You'll never avoid injuries. So, please don't quote me on, well, Jimmy said we're getting players that don't get injured. But injury records are really heavy in our consideration of who we're signing. This regime, for example, will not sign a Tom Davis. He's with us now and he will likely be involved when he's available because he's a very good player. But we would not have signed Tom Davis if Ruben Sayers was manager at the time. Because he's the best ability is, say it with me, correct. Availability. I'm going to say something else then. Wrong. I wouldn't want any of those 10 Derby players. Exactly, JP. Exactly. And look, there's 1 or 2 that probably you would say sniff around our first team. I like the American forward up front. Carlton Morris would be a decent backup option for us up top. But a backup option. So, again, you can get the quantity in. We're after the quality. I know some will argue that we need quantity as well at the moment. But we're okay with a smaller squad as long as the squad is quality and durable. Matt says, let's face it, that's nearly our first team. That's nearly our first team. Take Robinson out and maybe Brooks. Anyone else will start in my eyes. Yeah, I think you're right, pal. So is my mate. I had a scare with home the other day. The idiot just ate something. Oh, we're not about dogs here. It will be an obligation. Atalanta want him sold. Interesting, Grumpy. Interesting. Like that. Godfrey also played today in a friendly. Interesting too. I do like Barry on the wing, says Jack. Yeah, me too. Bindon and Barry have both had bad injuries. They might be fine, and I hope they will, but it's a concern. Of course it is, and that's fair as well. That's fair. Ian says, we're already 2 points better off than we were this time last year. Top man. Yes, we are, Ian, the gatekeeper. Hope you're well, mate. The Blunt Yorkshireman says, great comments from Jimmy and Man Mountain yesterday. A lot of blades have only known one way of doing things, so they can't compute a new strategy up the Ramble. Thank you, Blunt Yorkshireman. This is something I was saying, and I repeated it again today at some point. I can't remember when, but I'll go back to it again. We are, I think it's fair to say, a top 30 club in this country. And as a fan base, and even as a club, we are the last ones, or one of the very last ones, to adopt a exploration of the foreign transfer market. We have been so domesticated for so long, and we're not used to it. We're not used to it as a fan base. So Brighton will have started this way. Brentford will have started this way by saying, why aren't we going for Chris Owolumo? Why aren't we going for, whoever, those old school players that are proven at championship level? Why aren't we going for David Connolly? When we could, who's this random Victor Gyökeres that Brighton are signing? Do you know what I mean? It's one of them, isn't it? So, for it, obviously, you could have, with this strategy, you'll have several misses. All you need is one hit, really. All you need is one Illiman and die, and you're absolutely laughing, aren't you? We have to get our heads round, this is the new normal for Sheffield United. And it's tough. It's tough for us all to get our head round. Not only the new transfer strategy, but the new ownership in the non-communicative way that they are operating or choosing to operate. It's tough for us to accept, but it's the way it's going to be. So we have to get used to it, and it relies on, either proving it on the pitch ultimately is what it relies on, and Sayers answering some tough questions in press conferences and things like that, which I'm sure he will get this week, and we'll be here for Hot Off the Presser whenever his press conference comes. Straight afterwards, we'll be live to bring you all the news. We just got our loan in now, says Statman Jack, against our parachute payments, so we can start spending on perms. Yeah, so this is interesting from Jack. You may have seen, or you may not have seen, Kieran Maguire, the financial expert, has this morning reported that Sheffield United have borrowed, I think it's up to 18 million quid on future payments. So this could mean anything. This could mean that they are wanting some working capital up front for operational purposes. It could also mean that we want money up front to be able to do some transfer dealings. And my money would be on that, personally. I think this is tough fund, permanent deals. It's getting your parachute money early. It's nothing to be overly concerned about, although I don't know the ins and outs of it in terms of, I can only tell you the awareness I have from the previous regime, but this is a common practice of getting money early so that you can utilise it to your benefit. And yes, you pay more interest on it longer term, but this is what we've done for years as a club. It's not a new thing. It's a new ownership, but it's not a new thing. So I don't want people thinking, oh, well, they're skint, so they're borrowing money that we haven't already got. I think this will be to fund some permanent transfers, as Jack suggests here. Ben says, being young, they have more chance of recovery in terms of Barry and Bindon, but we'll have to wait and see. We certainly will, but they will have been through a thorough medical process. I can guarantee you that. Chirac comes in. Welcome back, Chirac. Just to have his, that train's never late. Wilder ball was pure and utter trash. One thing I will say on this. A lot of us, we were very successful last season. No matter what happened, ultimately we failed in our goal, but we were very successful on the pitch in terms of acquiring a ridiculous amount of points. But there were a lot of moans and groans in the stands, and people may try and rewrite this, but there were a lot of moans and groans on the style of football. And while we're having to constantly bat off, criticisms of this in certain scenarios, ultimately it was winning football. But I can only remember a few games: Coventry, Borough, Oxford, and the beginning of the Leeds game. I was talking to Paul again about this today. Paul Rose, Wellstone Landscape, sponsor of this show. I can't remember any other games really that blew me away and made me think we are very, very impressive. Everything else seemed to be a little bit of a struggle, and it was ultimately successful. So none of that may matter in a lot of people's eyes, but from what we've seen of Sayers football so far, it's vertical, as he talks about. It is high press, nick the ball high up the pitch, play in their half if you can, which is quite risky, but it's exciting. And pepper the goal as much as you can. Try and outscore your opponent. So I'm expecting entertaining football at the Lane, but we'll only know once the squad's set as to how successful that will ultimately end up being. Spotlight Actor Wayne says, evening Jimmy, up the Blades, up the Ramble, like and subscribe. That team, to me, I'm happy with and good enough to beat Bristol City. I'm going 2-0 Blades, same as Charlie, I think, said earlier. Andrew says, problem we had last August wasn't the first 11, it was the bench and the lack of depth. It was definitely stronger going into September. Yes, I agree with that too. I agree with that. There needs to be more depth. Underneath this, particularly in defence, there is very, very little. And goalkeeper, if we're honest. Very little. So, and right wing. So there's a few concerns. The depth is a true concern. But again, a lot of time. Like, subscribe and share the Best Players channel on the Tinterweb peeps. Thank you, Bri. Helps us grow the channel. Helps you get brilliant content all for the price of zero. Go on, do it. Do it. Thank you, mate. Charger says, is it Thierry Ballo, as he is Austrian and can play across the front three? Where have you heard that name, Charger? Where have you heard that name? Let me know. Should be positive until that first ball is kicked. Even then, it should be positive until the window closes. Yes, I agree with that, Brett. But by the same token, to offer a counter-argument to that, it's completely understandable why people are concerned at the moment. Completely understandable. So I don't begrudge anybody that's having a bit of a squeaky bum time at the minute. James says, heard the owners have turned the financial tap off. I haven't heard that. Not bothered about McTurdy, says Chris. Lee says, 10 million isn't 10 million up front. It's always staged payments and offset against parachute payments. It doesn't demonstrate investment. What would you rather do then, Lee? What would you rather do? What is that pretend money then? This is like the old Andy the Blades argument where, well, he scored 4 goals in one game, so it don't count as 4. It does count as 4. It's 4 goals. I'm not having that, Lee. I will, just because we pay it in installments don't mean it's not a significant investment. You could offset that against anything, against parachute payments or anything. Anyway. Cannon was only bought because Wilder, my opinion, says Key, and unfortunately he was wrong with a few signings, but I still love him onwards and upwards though. It wasn't a Wilder was offered Tom Cannon, and Wilder was like, absolutely, I'll have him if you want him. If you want to give me him. Don't blame Chrissy Wilder for that at all. But it wasn't a case of Chris Wilder going in and saying, get me Tom Cannon. That wasn't the situation at all. Chris says, great to have you back home, Jim. I can't imagine how bad last week was for you, but I hope you managed to have some good family time on holiday. Remember, the future is bright. The future is red and white. Thank you, pal. I cannot express to you how difficult it was. I won't go into that now. Maybe I'm behind the ramble at some stage, but it was horrendous. And thank you to everybody that's stuck with us and continued to show the support. Really appreciate it. Hi, Jimmy. What's your thoughts on Will Lancashire joining Oxford on loan from Spurs? If we need a loan signing, that 16-year-old Liverpool winger looks awesome. Yeah, is that the Rio kid? The highlights, and again, highlights, but he's a Liverpool kid, so great pedigree. Yeah, looks really good, that Rio kid. Will Lancashire, I really like as a player. I think he will be a very good player. Will Lancashire, obviously, for those that don't know, came through the Sheffield United Academy, went to Spurs, went out on loan last season to West Brom, and didn't pull up many trees. But I think at Oxford he'll get some good game time, and I think he'll have a good season. I think there's certainly a player in there, so all the best to him, just not against Sheffield United. Jake says, do you think the deal for Everton midfield has fallen through, and do you think he would fit in the team? No, I don't think it's fallen through. I think it's taken a step down on the priority list, but I don't think it's fallen through. I think it'll still happen if I'm completely honest. And we were talking about this on 3MB last night. Where does he fit in? Tricky one really, because you look at this centre midfield at the moment. We've got Sidney Peck and Gus Amer in there. We've now got Samari who can play in there, who is a ball winner. We've got Arblaster coming back into there. We've got Tom Davies, who, when fit, can certainly hold his own in centre midfield. So it's stacked, isn't it? It's stacked out in terms of depth. It's a strange one for me, but the one thing I will say, and Lee Edridge has been a huge fan of Tim Irigbunum for coming on 2 years now. He messaged me about 18 months, 2 years ago about him. And the only thing I can think of, it's a player that's become available that's better than what we already have. And that is a huge statement, saying what we have in there. But we obviously feel he's good enough to bring in, even if it's top heavy in centre midfield then, is good enough that we think we can make space for him to play. So it's one that I'm really hopeful for. If he does come in, then I'm confident that it's been a really sought after player. Bryce says, I just wonder why teams buying off us take days and incomings take weeks and a trip to Meadowhall. I think the two players that we can contrastingly compare there are Kiefer Moore, which has been ongoing for about a week, probably a touch longer. So just because it wasn't the talk of the town all the time, that's taken a reasonable amount of time to do. The Samari deal took a long time because of the work permits and paperwork. And Nell, the other deal, which seems to have gone through really quickly, did get rushed through, and he's starting tonight in Champions League, which might tell you why they were willing to do the work as quickly as they could, because they obviously saw him as pivotal to playing in that team tonight. Maybe they're in a situation a bit like us where they're desperate for a centre-half. Maybe that's why they paid over the odds for him, because I think they did. Knowing or hearing the figure that I've heard, I think we've got a really strong deal out of that in terms of the finance. Obviously, we're on the back foot a little bit now, but I think it's a good deal for Sheffield United. Jack says, I also don't mind all the loans we want to bring in, but when we go up, we aren't going to have a good, strong foundation to build from. When we go up, that is super positive, Jack. Chirac Sir says, Lee, it's Wilder that needs reminding that 92 points equals failure. In Sayers we trust, best manager we've ever had after Dave Bassett, employed by the best owners we've ever had. You are a wind-up merchant, Chirac, sir. You certainly are. I like Sam McCallum as a member of the cause. It seems he's Brewster replacement for the dressing room, says Key. Opinions without evidence. If that's your argument, that's okay. We're not going to get into that now because I'm trying to get through the comments. Paul says, can't see you getting to 92 points this season, honestly, but hope you do, and it's easier this coming season. Thank you, pal. I hope so too. Phil says, hi, Jimmy. I think Cooper's more important to us than Gus. If we had to sell one of them, for me, it would have to be Gus. Having a solid goalkeeper is important for that back four up the Ramble. I agree. I agree with it's underestimated how important Michael Cooper is. Probably not by a lot of blades now, but I am so happy that we've got Michael Cooper between the sticks. Everybody knows how long we've wanted him. And yeah, he's an incredible player for us. I just think Gus is an X factor in any game. And if he turns up and says yes, as Wilder used to say, then teams can't live with him. Eric says, best wishes to all of us Blades in the coming season. Thank you, Eric. I didn't mean it's likely we would sell Gus or Coops, but as you say, everyone has a price. No matter what, sorry, that's a throwback. No matter what trade, but I'm excited about the future, even though I'm expecting a tougher market. Yeah, absolutely right. Jimmy seemed knowledgeable, but Louis Marsh up front, come on, which other club does that if wanting top two? No, mate, to be fair, Louis Marsh has been doing all right from centre midfield. Who'd have thought Ryan O'Neill were ready? And he's going to be our third choice as a central striker. Maybe Louis Marsh, it's a little step too far, but if you've got two up top, you normally have four strikers, don't you, in your club when you play with two up top? You have four as rotation options and obviously fitness concerns and things like that. We've got three strikers for one position. I think we're over-egging it in terms of there's a danger if... And I'll counter my own point by saying that's the reason we signed Tom Cannon, in my opinion, is because Kiefer Moore and Tyrese Campbell were out injured and we only had Brewster and One. And we panicked and we didn't rate either of those two as a central number 9 at the time. We brought in somebody to replace him. That's my opinion about it went down. There's enough goals in the front line and midfield. I'd rather sign a quality right winger and right back and centre back than another striker. I would too, Jack, but Lee makes a decent point and other people think we need more. But I think a centre back is the priority. I think a right back then and a right winger too. Paul says, Cooper stays in my opinion, but Gus will be gone in the next 10 days. Holland inbound. I don't think so, personally. I don't think so. Cooler King says, how much do you think your club will spend in permanent transfers before the window closes? This is the true unknown, Cooler King. Because, and to be honest, I'm stitching myself up here because I could say 15 million quid and we might get nowhere near it. We might end up spending 3. But we also might spend 20 million. Who knows? We brought in enough money. And the Tom Cannon deal last season caught everybody so off guard. I think if the right players come up, we will spend the money. That's how I feel about it personally. But I don't know is the honest answer. Chirac, no point buying a Rolls Royce if you can't afford it to put the fuel in to run it, mate. I'd like to see more intent from them. Is all. I get you, pal. Everything is going to be okay, a lot better than it ever was, says Chirac. Rob says, evening, Jimmy. Coming to this stream later, my 11 for Saturday will be the same as yours, but Samari if fit instead of Peck, as I'm excited to see him. Is that not harsh on City? And it's a great statement for what you think of Samari. And if that happens, then fair dues, but I think that's really harsh on City, who had a brilliant season last year. 5-2 win, looking bad in defence, but electric up top, up all the Rambles. Chris says you need quality and quantity. You do in an ideal scenario, but I'd rather have quality than quantity, to be honest. With Peck, Hamer and O'Hare, you have in midfield, says Simon. The front three should be drooling over the through balls, and I would be excited to see something. I'd be excited to see it, I suppose. Bill says, dearie me, Chirac is back in here. Blast from the past. I know, Bill, that's a throwback in it. It's a throwback. Mark Meldrew says, Chris Iwelumo, that's a blast from the past. YouTube, miss Chris Iwelumo is the worst one ever for me. YouTube, miss Chris Iwelumo. Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen it. Bobby Zamora were another one. When the ball hits the goal, it's not Shearer or Cole, it's Zamora. Good chant. I do value a good chant. Dave Morwood says, I said in July Barry and Doak would be perfect. Yes, you did. And that is the beauty of the internet, Dave, is that it's nailed on, isn't it? So when I mess up a stream, it's nailed it's nailed on, but you're right, pal. Come on, Blades, please get Doak. Billy says, it's not like the new normal though, Jim. We've been picking up young potential for years to develop. Hampson Peck, Eob Abara, Lancashire, Curtis Koulibaly. The AI lads are nothing new, except they're from abroad, from a board members other club. That's true. Board members other club. No, in terms of the new norm, in terms of the first team recruitment, Bill, is what I'm talking about, pal. So we are no longer being linked with the best of the Championship or the best of League One. Currently, we are being linked with Sumares and Zetterstroms and players like that we have no real knowledge of, and it's difficult to get that knowledge and understanding of. And even if you manage to locate a few YouTube videos and some stats, you've no idea how they're going to adapt to the English game. And that is a concern for some fans because it's going into the unknown and it's trusting people that we also don't know a lot about. We don't know a lot about this team that's putting these transfers, that's sort of arranging these transfers for Sheffield United. That's why people are nervous, because they're not proven commodities. Just my opinion. Every rich man borrows money, says Kay. Funny you mentioning and Dye, it looks like he's off to Inter Milan, I've seen today. Illiman to Inter. Won't surprise me. He will go to the very top, that boy. Say yes, we'll bring more similarities with Stoke than just the red and white. Poor. We will be nothing like Stoke City. Nothing like them. Avril says, hey up Ramblers, hope we're all well. Still time to get some reinforcements in yet, as long as we keep hold of our strongest squad and not sell our young talent. I'll be happy. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Thank you, Avril. Yeah, me too. Leeds fans moaned about Farker all season and same at Burnley. That's true. Leicester, Ipswich and Southampton can't see how else, says Paul. Ipswich look very strong. Leicester have got a very strong squad that seems to have been downplayed a little bit because of their off-field problems, but I think they'll still go well. Ooh, breaking news. Not about Sheffield United, but EFL statement about Sheffield Wednesday. Let's have a little look at this together, eh? So, the EFL statement says, the EFL oh, hang on, get rid of that. The EFL stands alongside those associated with the Sheffield Wednesday Football Club who are deeply concerned and frustrated by the ongoing and developing challenges at the club. The league wants to see a strong, stable and competitive Sheffield Wednesday, and for that to happen we are clear that the current owner needs to either fund the club to meet its obligations or make good on his commitment to sell to a well-funded party for fair market value, ending the current uncertainty and impasse. We continue to pursue options available to us to resolve the current challenges, and to that end the league is currently in advanced discussions with Mr. Chansiri's legal advisors on formalising a process around divestment of his shareholding in the club. The EFL board met on Wednesday to receive a comprehensive update, and following recent speculation the league can confirm that there are no restrictions on the club starting the season on Sunday as planned. In addition to this, over recent weeks our team has been in daily contact with the club across a range of other matters, and while we're respecting the need for confidentiality in certain aspects, in the interests of transparency, the below is intended to provide an update on some of this work. While much of this focuses on our work to safeguard Sheffield Wednesday's financial position and ability to fulfil its obligations, the league also has a duty to fairly and consistently apply its regulations, which are agreed by all member clubs, and ensure that all other member clubs are not unfairly disadvantaged. Aside from the Premier League Solidarity Payment due to be paid this week and the club's monthly EFL Basic Award payments, the only other sources of funding for the club to meet its payroll and other obligations are from external sources via Mr. Chansiri or from club-generated revenue. The CRFU has been in daily dialogue with the club over recent weeks as it seeks to finalise its cash flow requirements. Alongside this, the FRU are actively looking at available options in respect to the club's playing squad as a means of helping to ensure that it can fulfil its fixtures while still respecting the restrictions imposed through the current registration embargo and fee restriction. The league notes there's loads here. There's loads. I didn't realise it were as long. Apologies. If the North Stand cannot be used, the stadium still meets the required minimum capacity set out in the EFL regulations, but will inevitably result in several logistical difficulties for the club to resolve, including other regulatory considerations. We are working through these issues with the club. The club has now surpassed 30 days of late payments for the year beginning 1st of July, and as a result, the club's fee restriction has been extended to the end of the winter transfer window in the 26-27 season. The EFL can also confirm that the club was placed under a further embargo for non-payment of players. Full details can be found here. Supporter engagement. League understands we have discussed our recent meetings with the trust. Doing so would leave the club liable to further sanctions. They're asking him not to protest. We ask if you have to protest, we're asking it's done in a way which is disruptive, not done in a way which is disruptive to the team and its ability to fulfil its fixtures. It would leave the club liable to further sanctions. Interesting. So the EFL are all over the Sheffield Wednesday situation. Morecambe didn't get this, is the first comment. Okay. Right. So it could always be worse, couldn't it? It could always be worse. We could always be them lot. And thank God we're not. Right. Where was I? 3-1 Blades to win on Saturday. Up the Ramble, says Steve-O. Top man. I want to say thank you to Key for his super chat. Score 6, but only concede 5. Entertainment time. I think, has that come in twice, Key? Thank you, mate. Don't know if you've done that by accident, but it's very much appreciated. Very generous, mate. Thank you, says Bry. Just like this place, to be honest. And Jimmy, thank you, mate. Love having you here. Love having you here, pal. Jake says, who would be your ideal winger to bring in? Ben Doak. Ben Doak for me. I think he fits the mould of a right wing threat for us. Goes round the side of the fullback, which we don't get much of. Although that doesn't really fit what we choose to do at the minute. We like to cut inside, don't we, and drive towards goal. I'm gutted I can't attend this match, says Jack. That's where we want to be. We want to be in the position where we're excited for the game because football is back and we all love football. Absolutely buzzing for it. Tom says, evening Jimmy, up the Blades, up the Ramble. You seem confident we'll hang on to Gus and Cooper. What makes me nervous is our past history where we sold Illiman and Sander very, very late in the past windows. They were more contract situations though, weren't they, Tom? There was reasons why we did it, whether you agree with it or not. That was a difficult decision that the board made, but this is an untested board, so I can't ever say 100% sure. There is a little caveat with Gus that worries me, but other than that, I think he stays. I desperately think he stays, and I'm certain that Cooper stays. I may be wrong. There's always something that can come in and swipe your feet out from under you. But they have, at the beginning of the window, they were our 2 prize assets, and they are both still here, and that cannot be underestimated for me. Brett says, won't take 100 points to get promoted this time, this season. Going to be really tight. Can see 15 points max between 1st and 6th. Apparently, we looked at Charlie Hughes last August, but someone within the club blocked it and Hull stepped in, says Andrew. Didn't know about that. Where are we? Scott says, evening Jimbo. Just been able to join. That's my lineup too, pal. Burrows loves a goal against these. Can he wait for the weekend? Up the Blades, up the Ramble. When the ball hits the stand, it's a Saba. Wow, that's harsh. That's harsh. Takeo says, don't think Jeff is near ready, but Okaki could be a real asset off the bench. Very raw, but equally rapid. I agree with that. I agree with both points made there. Not sure if you already chatted transfers. I cannot believe Wrexham might get Doak. What? No, it's not Doak. It's Kumas. Tell me you're getting confused there, Scott. Otherwise, I'll be fuming with that. We should be all over that. David Brooks' return has gone freezing cold. Can't see David Brooks' return, to be honest. Nath says, do you think we play with 10, Jimmy, as during pre-season we seem to have played... with a 10, sorry. We seem to have played a 6 and a 2-8 up the Blades, up the Ram. I think out of possession we have. I think O'Hare's dropped deeper, hasn't it? But then in possession we've moved to a 4-2-3-1. So yeah, I think it could be similar to that, Nath, where O'Hare drops in a little bit. Sai says, Tieno Ballo has a decent right foot, seems to play in a few front positions, mainly left wing. Secondary attacking midfielder, centre forward, seems to have good link-up play. I would take him. Transfer market has him listed at €5 million. People forget young players turn into men. Absolutely right, they do. Chris says, agree with you, Jim, but what I mean is we are very light in key areas with quality and depth. Yes, yeah, I think that's fair. Colour King says, I remember that Iwalumo miss. Playing for Scotland, open goal, a yard out, puts it wide. The look of total disbelief on his face. You'll love to see it. John says experience is the wrong question. It should be leadership. The answer is Arblaster, a bit behind, just catching up. John, you bang on, and I think it was Dave the Nose that mentioned, it might have been Man Mountain, somebody mentioned Arblaster last night. He defies age, doesn't he? He leads by example on the pitch, and that's a very fair point that you make. Bill says, yep, totally agree. I'm nervous for the reasons you outlined, mate. Hughes versus Zetterstrom is complete no argument for me, but the new owners seem intent on maximising the financial upside. There won't be a financial upside though, Bill, will there? And I know you'll agree, if we finish mid-table, the players won't be as sought after as if we'd have got a Charlie Hughes instead and maybe made that step higher. So I think it's naive to take academy approach into the first team, expecting these lads to hit the ground running in a new country and league. For every Anel and Souza, there's a Traore and a Koulibaly. Well said, my friend. We were signing Swedish, Belarusian, Norwegian and Greek players in the 90s. Nothing new to see except for some marketing spin. Lee, you're right. We have had those type of players play for us previously, but it's never been the norm, has it, at Sheffield United? In seasons where you have a turnover of 15 players out, 15 players in, you could probably name 20 in the last 30 years that's happened. So let's not twist how Sheffield United operate. Everybody knows we are a heavily domesticated side when it comes to the transfer market. Certainly in the Neil Warnock, Chris Wilder eras, and there's always been the odd exception, even with their time at the club, but heavily domestic in terms of our incomings and outgoings. Lewis says, Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester are all coming down with strong squads. Assuming United strengthen with 2 or 3 more, I would have those 4 in the mix for automatic, not as high as on Brum as others. Yeah, I agree, Lewis. And if you saw our prediction show on 2MB, then you will know that I agree with you. Them lot in South Barnsley, the club that keeps on giving. Bob Bennett, latest Platinum Rambler, thank you for your support, pal. Discuss Campbell. Is he really our number 1 striker? Never done 90 minutes, continually runs out of gas, never looks fully fit. Why is this? He's not a 20-goal a season championship forward. I think on goals per appearances, he must have been close to 20 goals per minutes played on average. So that's what, roughly 1 every 2 and a bit games. He must have been close to that. However, I agree with you. I think his fitness has always been the concern, and it was a concern when he signed for us. If he can get up to the levels that we are hoping for, and this is obviously maximum positivity, we have got some player in our hands. And if not, Tom Cannon will be there to back him up. So I think from his season last year, Bob, he has earned the right to start and be that starting number 9. But he will have Tom Cannon breathing down his neck, saying, I want a piece of this. And I think Tom Cannon will play, like we were talking about last night on 3MB, he will play plenty of football this season. I think Dave, or again, it might have been Paul, said he will play in the vast majority of games with Tom Cannon, whether it's off the bench or as a rotation option. And I completely agree. Josh says, I think getting another centre midfielder makes great sense as it gives us 2 players for the 3 positions and means the likes of Gus, Peck and O'Hare don't need to drop so deep anymore. It gives us a plan A, B, C and more. And it also means coming off the bench we have that quality and depth, doesn't it? But that's the only position on the pitch that we've got it. That would be my only thing. I think we've got it as the sole striker as well, because I think Cannon's different to Campbell, but he's still a very good striker at the level. Other than that, I think we start to drop off in terms of quality and depth. John says, right about good point about Campbell. Or Rob's saying, good point about Campbell, Cannon, and how it will be interchangeable this season. Jack says, I'm looking forward to seeing Sayers' performance against the top 3 or 6. One thing for sure is we didn't take enough points off them last season. That's fair. Phil says, hello, Jimmy. I wish we could get Joe Worrell on loan. For me, he will come in as captain, a leader, and will start out the defence. Never rated Robinson in this role up the Ramble. I would agree with you on Joe Worrell, Phil. We had a little chat about him last night as well. Just because he's not seen to be good enough for the Premier League doesn't mean he's not good enough to have a real impact at Championship level. I think he'd be a great signing for us. But maybe he doesn't fit this system. Maybe he isn't athletic enough to be involved. Like a Ben Godfrey, for example, if we're playing a high press and The defence is sitting on the halfway line as we attack. Is he quick enough to get back? I think he gives us great qualities in terms of leadership, but is he the type of player you want in that sort of system? Don't know. And that's another reason I don't think we'll sign him. Morecambe didn't get any help though, did they? No, they didn't, pal. No, they didn't. O'Hare was the star last season. He's really underrated, says Key. Not by Mr. V. Mr. V recognises his true value. Oh, you're right, Jimbo. It's Kumas few. Thank the Lord, Scott. Thank the Lord. Not because I think we'll definitely get Doak, but if Wrexham got Doak, I think that's a serious statement. JP says, before last season, I've never expected Sariki to be a first-team player for us. Need to have faith in the new young lads. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying, pal. After all our whinging, me more than most, I for one can't wait for Saturday, says Chris. Can we all ensure the atmosphere is better at times than it was flat last season? This team needs all stands getting behind them. I completely agree with that as well. Completely agree with that. And it starts at the fan zone at 4 o'clock when Matilda Shakes are on stage. They are the soundtrack to the Ramble and absolutely brilliant. Blades. Maybe majority of them are Blades. And we'll get behind them. So Super Jack says, I think we can all agree this squad right now is okay to start, but it needs improvement in key areas of quality and depth-wise. I'm sure they'll know this. So we may not like it, but we've got to wait. Campbell is a confidence player, says Key. That's true. And JP says his fitness is the only thing stopping him from being a Prem level footballer. Hopefully he will be this time next season. Chef Paul says 15.6 million is a great deal for the Blades. We've got nowhere near that, mate. He was a top championship player but struggled in the Prem. We can now move on and buy some quality. I know where you've got confused with that figure. I think it will be because his transfer market value was 18 million euros, but we didn't. He were in the last year of his contract. That's what he is valued as a talent on transfer market, which fluctuates massively, by the way. There's no rhyme or reason to that. So it was nowhere near that. Nowhere near that figure. Tom says, do we feel Campbell will be able to lay the pace this season and give us 90 minutes regularly? No, I don't think he'll give us 90 minutes regularly. I don't think he will. But I think that's why Tom Cannon's going to be heavily involved and hopefully has a good season himself. Louis says, I would say we need a right-back, centre-back, right-winger jack. Cooler King says, any idea whether Wilder was anything in the pipeline, had anything in the pipeline, already got his feet up on the beach? Or has now? No idea. No idea what's happening with Chris Wilder. Wish him all the best, obviously. Our greatest ever. Rob says, does anyone think that Sayers might change his captain for Saturday? No. I would love to see Peck with the armband up the Blades. He won't change it. Why would he change it? I think it causes a lot more problems than it solves. Also, in all the press promotional things, Jack Robinson were wearing the captain's armbands. So, one of them. What's the caveat on Gus? Jim says S70. It's not something I'm able to go into at a minute. It's not a club issue or anything like that. So, right, I am gonna leave it there because we've been going for an hour and a half. I've got to the end of the comments, which I'm very pleased about. Hopefully, I can manage to end it a little bit better than I started it, but time will tell. So, thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. I am back on tomorrow with Andy the Blade for a bit more talking sense. So, if any of you are interested in what my dad has to say about United going into the start of the season, I had to ring him today and remind him. We were like, it's next week, isn't it? Aren't we on next week after the first game? No, Dad. It's the date that you wrote down when I gave you it last time. Oh, I thought it was next week. Well, it's not. So you're still good to go because I've advertised you. What you advertised me for? Because you said you could do it. Oh, well, looks like we're going tomorrow then, doesn't it? Yes. So join me and Andy the Blade. I'm sure he'll be absolutely devastated about missing out on McBurney, but we can ask him all about it, can't we? So join us there. I'm really excited for the game. Hope you are too. Everybody that's going, you will see me there. I'll be in Triple Point, who sponsor the channel. Thank you for their support. Selena Bar, who also sponsor the channel. And maybe even Panenka if we get a chance, because they are owned by the same people. And certainly be in the fan zone to see my boys, Matilda Shakes, blow what is no longer, well, there's no roof on it, is there? But tear the house down. And in an exciting performance. Bit of Fever Dream to finish off. Bit of adrenaline to get us started. I'm up for a bit of that. So for now, come on you red and white wizards. All the blade!